It is late August, and there is a hole in the ground out by the old fence post that you did not notice in June. You mowed past it a dozen times. But step on it now, or run the mower over it on a hot still afternoon, and a few hundred yellowjackets come boiling up out of that hole all at once, angry in a way a honeybee never is, and they will chase you across your own yard and sting you more than once apiece, because unlike the honeybee, the yellowjacket does not die when she stings you. She can do it again and again. My name is Silas Crane. I'm a hill man. I keep bees up here in the hollow, so I have spent 40 years learning the hard difference between the insect that makes your garden grow and the insect that wants to ruin your supper, and how to kill the one without ever touching the other. And the part that ought to make you a little angry is this. The can of wasp spray they sell you at the store, the one that shoots a stream 20 feet, kills the yellowjacket just fine. It also drifts onto the clover and the goldenrod and the flower bed, and it kills the honeybee right along with her. The man who sold you that can never mention it. It wasn't his concern. So stay with me. By the end of this, you'll know how to wipe out a wasp or yellowjacket nest on your property for about $5, in a way that leaves your honeybees and your pollinators untouched. And you'll know the one thing you must get right first, because if you get it wrong, you will get hurt. Let me start with what most folks get wrong. They treat every stinging thing the same, and they don't. There are two kinds of trouble, and they call for two different answers. The first kind builds a nest you can see. A gray paper ball hanging under the eave, or up in a tree, or that umbrella-shaped comb under the porch rail. That's your hornets and your paper wasps. The second kind builds down in the ground, in an old mouse hole or a gap in a wall, and you don't see the nest at all. You just see them coming and going from a hole, like bees from a hive. That's your yellowjacket, mostly. The two need handling a little different, and I'll give you both. But first, the rule that keeps you out of the emergency room. You never go near a nest in the heat of the day. Never. In daylight, the foragers are out, the nest is awake and full of fight, and they will defend it. You do all of this work at dusk or full dark, when every wasp in that colony is home and slow and half asleep, and when they cannot see well enough to chase you. Cool of the morning is second best. The middle of a warm afternoon is how people get hurt. If you remember nothing else, remember that. And if you know yourself to be allergic to stings, if a sting has ever swelled past the spot or made you breathe wrong, you do not do this at all. You call a person to do it. There is no $5 trick worth your life, and I will not pretend there is. Now, my granddaddy had a way with a ground nest that I have never found anything to beat, and it costs you about $1. Dish, soap, and water. That's it. A yellowjacket, like any insect, does not breathe through its mouth. It breathes through little holes along the sides of its body, and those holes are kept dry and open by a fine waxy coat. Plain water rolls right off and does nothing, but water with dish soap stirred into it. The soap breaks that waxy coat, the water floods in through those breathing holes, and the wasp drowns from the inside in seconds. It is fast, and it is certain, and there is no poison left in your soil when it's done. Here's how you do it. After dark, you mix about a cup of dish soap into a gallon of the hottest water you can carry safely. You walk out quiet, with a flashlight if you must, but keep the beam off the hole as much as you can, because the light can stir them. You pour the whole gallon, steady and all at once, straight down into the mouth of that ground nest. Then you step back, and you walk away. You do not stand there. The soap does the work in the dark. Most nests are finished with one good drench. A big one, you do it again the next night to be sure. Free, gentle on the ground, and it never once touches a flower where a bee might land. For the nest you can see. The paper ball under the eave. The comb under the rail. Same rule. Full dark, same soapy water in a pump sprayer if you have one, or a hose end if the nest is high. Soak it through until it drips. The cold of the night already has them slow. By morning it's done, and you knock the empty nest down with a long pole, never your hand. Let me stop here a moment, because here is where I keep you honest. You are going to see the title and think about that phrase, half a mile. Now, a good protein bait trap set out in late summer will pull foraging yellowjackets from a long way off, farther than folks expect, and a few traps around the edge of your property really will thin a bad year down to where you can enjoy your own yard. But I am not going to tell you a single trap clears every wasp from a half-mile of mountain. Nothing does. What clears your yard is killing the nests on your ground and trapping the foragers that drift in from the woods. Do both, and your trouble is over. That's the honest shape of it. So here is the trap, and it costs you about $4 or nothing at all. Take an empty 2-liter bottle, cut the top third off, turn it upside down like a funnel into the bottom, so a wasp can crawl in easy and can't find her way back out. Now the bait, and the bait is the clever part, because this is how you spare the bees. In the spring and early summer, leave the trap empty. A hungry bee is after sugar, and you do not want to catch her. But in the late summer and fall, when the yellowjackets turn mean and go hunting meat for the nest, you bait with a bit of meat. A scrap of ham, a little cat food, a piece of fish, and you add a drop of dish soap to a couple inches of water in the bottom. The yellowjacket wants the meat. The honeybee has no interest in meat. None. She will not come near it. So a meat-baited trap in the fall catches yellowjackets and leaves your bees alone by their own nature. Hang 2 or 3 around the edges of the yard, away from where you sit, and refresh them when they fill. That's the whole of it. Now I promised honesty, so let me tell you what I would not do. I would not pour gasoline or kerosene down a ground nest, no matter how many men swear it works. It does work, and it also poisons your soil and your water for years. It's against the law most places for good reason, and I have seen what a careless match near fuel will do. The soap does the same job with none of that. I would not light a paper nest on fire under my own eave, and I would not stand under a nest swinging at it in the daylight, which is how most folks I know got the worst of it. Here's the cost, plain. A bottle of dish soap you already own, an empty 2-liter you are going to recycle, a scrap of meat from the kitchen. $5 covers all of it if you had to start from nothing. Set that against the exterminator's visit or the case of aerosol cans that kill your pollinators along with the pest, and it isn't a close call. So this week, walk your property line slow in the evening and watch for the steady coming and going at a hole in the ground or a gap in the wall. That's how you find the nest before it finds you. Mark it. Then, after dark, the soapy water. And hang a meat-baited bottle or 2 at the edges for the ones drifting in. Do that and you'll sit on your own porch again come September. Next time, I'm going to show you the $2 thing my granddaddy kept in a coffee can by the back door that meant a mouse never once crossed our threshold. No poison, nothing the dog or the cat could get into. It's the natural next step after this one. Until then, stay cool, stay watchful, and remember, the folks who settled these mountains with their bare hands knew things we are only just starting to remember. Number, SEO raw, human, no AI speak. Description: I'm Silas Crane, and I keep bees up here in the hollow, so killing a wasp or a yellowjacket without killing my honeybees is something I've had 40 years to figure out. In this one, I show you the difference between the nests you can see and the ground nests you can't, and exactly how to deal with each one for about $5 using soapy water and an old 2-liter bottle. It's safe for your honeybees and your pollinators, because store wasp spray drifts onto the flowers and kills them right along with the wasp, and nobody tells you that. I'll be straight with you about the half-a-mile business, too, and I'll tell you the one thing you must never do. Work a nest in the heat of the day, and the trick that keeps you safe full dark every time. If stings have ever made you swell or breathe wrong, don't do this yourself. Get someone. No $5 trick is worth that. How I do it on my own place. Use your head, read your labels, and stay safe. What you'll need: dish soap, a gallon of hot water, an empty 2-liter bottle, a scrap of meat for the fall trap, chapters. 0, the hole by the fence post. 1:40. The two kinds of stinging trouble. 3:30. The rule that keeps you out of the ER. 6. My granddaddy's soapy water drench. 9:30. The nests you can see. 11. The honest truth about half a mile. 13. The $4 bottle trap that spares the bees. 17. What I would never do gasoline. Fire. 19:30. Finding the nest before it finds you. Tags. Yellowjacket nest. Get rid of wasps. Wasp nest removal. Ground nest yellowjackets. Safe for bees. Dish soap wasps. Natural wasp control. Homestead pest. Appellation. Frugal. Paper wasp. Hornet nest. Pinned comment. The whole thing comes down to one rule. Never work a nest in the heat of the day, always at dusk or full dark, when they're home and slow. And if a sting has ever made you swell or breathe wrong, don't do this yourself. Call someone. Stay safe out there. Number script expanded. Full documentary to 3,300 words. Supersedes the short draft above. Delete that one. It is late August, and there is a hole in the ground out by the old fence post that you did not notice back in June. You have mowed past it a dozen times this summer. The grass grew up around it, the ground settled, and a few of them came and went so quiet you never marked it. But step on that hole now, on a hot, still afternoon, or run the mower over it without thinking, and the ground itself seems to come alive. A few hundred yellowjackets boil up out of that hole all at once, fast and low and furious in a way a honeybee never is, and they come straight for you. And unlike the honeybee who stings you once and dies for it, the yellowjacket does not die. She stings you, and she pulls back, and she stings you again, and her sisters do the same, and she will chase you the length of your own yard to do it. Every summer the emergency rooms in this country fill up in August and September with people who found a ground nest the hard way, with a mower or a boot or a curious grandchild, and a good number of them did not even know the nest was there. My name is Silas Crane. I'm a hill man, and I keep bees up here in the hollow, 9 hives along the south fence, so I have spent 40 years learning the hard difference between the insect that makes my garden grow and the insect that wants to ruin my supper and put me in the hospital besides. And more than that, I have learned how to kill the one without ever once touching the other, because a man who keeps bees cannot afford to be careless about what he sprays. The part that ought to make you a little angry is this. The can of wasp spray they sell you at the store, the one that shoots a foaming stream 20 feet, kills the yellowjacket just fine, but that stream does not stay where you aim it. It drifts. It settles on the clover and the goldenrod and the flower bed where the honeybee and the bumblebee are working, and it kills them too, slow, over the next day. The man who sold you that can never said a word about it. It was not his concern, and your honeybees were not on his mind. So stay with me. By the end of this, you are going to know how to wipe out a wasp or a yellowjacket nest anywhere on your property for about $5 in a way that leaves your honeybees and your bumblebees and every other good pollinator completely untouched. And you are going to know the one rule that, if you break it, will put you in the hospital, so we are going to start there before anything else. Let me start with what most folks get wrong, because it is the root of all the trouble. They lump every stinging thing together and treat them all the same, and they are not the same. There are 2 different kinds of trouble on your property, and they call for 2 different answers, and if you use the answer for one on the other, you will either fail or get hurt. The first kind builds a nest you can see, a gray papery ball hanging up under the eave, or out on a tree limb, or down low in a shrub, or that open umbrella-shaped comb of cells tucked up under the porch rail or the deck joist. That is your bald-faced hornets and your paper wasps, and they nest up in the air where you can find them. The second kind builds down in the ground, in an old abandoned mouse burrow or a gap under a root or a hole in a rock wall, and you cannot see the nest at all. All you see, if you are watching, is a steady stream of them coming and going from a single hole in the dirt, like bees from the mouth of a hive. That is the yellowjacket, most often, and she is the meanest of the lot in the fall. I will give you the way to handle both. But first, the rule. You never, ever go near a nest in the heat of the day. Never. I am going to say it more than once in this video because it is the one thing that keeps you whole. In the daylight, the foragers are out, and the nest is awake and full of fight, every guard alert, the whole colony ready to pour out and defend. You do every bit of the work I am about to show you at dusk, or better yet at full dark, when every last wasp in that colony has come home for the night, and they are cool and slow and half asleep, and, just as important, they cannot see well in the dark, and so they cannot chase you the way they would in daylight. The cool of early morning, before the sun is on the nest, is your second best time. The middle of a warm afternoon is exactly how people end up in the hospital. If you remember one thing from this whole video, remember that you work a nest in the dark, or you do not work it at all. And there is one more thing I will say plainly, because I would rather lose your view than have something happen to you. If you know yourself to be allergic to stings, if a single sting has ever swelled up far past the spot where you were stung, or made your throat feel tight, or made you breathe wrong, or made you dizzy, then you do not do any of this yourself. None of it. You call a person who does this for a living and you let them handle it, and you stand well back. There is no $5 trick on this earth worth your life, and I will never pretend to you that there is, for a bad ground nest, or a big nest up high, or one anywhere near a doorway your family uses every day. There is no shame at all in paying a man to take the risk for you. Know yourself, and choose accordingly. Now, with all of that understood, let me give you my granddaddy's way with a ground nest, which I have never in 40 years found anything to beat, and which costs you about $1. Dish, soap, and water, that is the whole of it. Here is why it works, because you should understand it and not just do it. A yellowjacket, like every insect, does not breathe through her mouth. She breathes through a row of tiny holes along the sides of her body, and those holes are kept open and dry by a fine coat of wax over her whole shell. Plain water cannot get through that wax. It beads up and rolls right off and does nothing, which is why folks who pour plain water down a nest just make it angry. But water with dish soap stirred into it is a different animal entirely. The soap breaks down that waxy coat, the water floods in through those open breathing holes, and the wasp drowns from the inside in a matter of seconds. It is fast, it is certain, and when it is done, there is nothing left in your soil but soapy water, which the next rain washes to nothing. No poison, no residue, nothing for the dog to find, nothing to leach toward the well. Here is exactly how you do it. After full dark, you mix about a cup of dish soap into a gallon of the hottest water you can carry without scalding yourself. The heat helps, but do not burn your hands for it. Warm is plenty. You walk out quiet to the nest you marked in the daytime. Take a flashlight if you must, but here is a trick worth knowing. The light stirs them. So set the flashlight on the ground pointing at the hole from a little ways off, or wrap a bit of red cloth over it, because they see red poorly, and keep the bright beam off the hole as much as you can manage. You pour the whole gallon, steady and all at once, straight down into the mouth of that ground nest, so it floods the tunnel and runs down into the chambers below. Then you step back, and you walk away. You do not stand there over the hole admiring your work, because a few will come up. The soap does its work in the dark while you are back inside. Most ground nests are finished with one good drench. A big one, an old one that has had all summer to grow. You do it again the very next night to be sure you have reached the deepest chambers, free, gentle on your ground, and it never once touches a flower where a bee might land. For the nest you can see. The gray ball under the eave, the comb under the rail. It is the same rule and nearly the same method. Full, dark, always. The same soapy water, but now you want it in a pump sprayer if you have one, or a good hose-end sprayer if the nest is up high and you cannot reach it. You soak the nest through until it is dripping, until you have drenched every cell. The cold of the night already has them slow and clustered at home. By the morning it will be done, and you knock the empty nest down with a long pole or the end of a rake. Never, ever with your bare hand, and never standing directly under it. And you burn it or bag it. Let me stop here a moment, because this is the place where I keep you honest, and it is right there in the title of this video. You are going to see that phrase, half a mile, and you are going to wonder if I can really clear every wasp from a half-mile of mountain. I cannot, and neither can anyone, and I will not insult you by pretending. Here is the honest shape of it. A good protein bait trap set out in late summer really will pull foraging yellowjackets in from a surprising distance, farther than most folks would guess, because in the fall they range far and wide hunting meat for the nest, and a handful of those traps set around the edge of your property really will thin out a bad year to where you can sit in your own yard again. But what actually clears your yard for good is two things working together: killing the nests that are on your own ground, the way I just showed you, and trapping the foragers that drift in from the woods and the neighbor's place. Do both, and your trouble is genuinely over. Do only the trap and leave the nests, and you are bailing a boat with the plug pulled. So that is the honest version. Now let me give you the trap. The trap costs you about $4, or nothing at all if your recycling bin is full. Take an empty 2-liter soda bottle. Cut the top third off, right where it stops being a funnel and becomes a straight wall. Now turn that cut-off top upside down and set it back down into the body of the bottle, like a funnel pointing in. A wasp can crawl down through that funnel easy enough to get at the bait, but once she is in, she cannot find her way back up and out. They always try to climb the walls, not dive back down the funnel. Tape the rim so it holds. Now the bait, and the bait is the clever part, because this is the whole secret to sparing your bees. In the spring and the early summer, you leave a wasp trap empty, or you do not set one at all, because in the warm early months everything is hunting sugar, and a sweet bait will catch your honeybees right alongside the wasps, and we will not have that. But in the late summer and on into the fall, when the yellowjacket turns mean and switches over to hunting meat to feed the grubs back in the nest, you bait with a little scrap of meat, a bit of ham fat, a spoon of cheap cat food, a piece of fish gone past its prime. And you put a couple of inches of water in the bottom with a single drop of dish soap stirred in, so that anything that falls in cannot climb back out and drowns. Now here is the beauty of it. The yellowjacket wants that meat with everything in her. The honeybee has no interest in meat at all. None. A honeybee will not come within a yard of a piece of ham. So a meat-baited trap in the fall catches yellowjackets and yellowjackets only, and leaves your bees completely alone, not by any cleverness of yours, but by the plain, different nature of the two insects. Hang 2 or 3 of these around the edges of the yard, well away from where you actually sit, because you want to draw the wasps to the edges and not to your chair, and you empty and rebait them when they fill. That is the whole of it. Now I promised you honesty all the way through, so let me tell you what I would never do, and why. I would never pour gasoline or kerosene or any fuel down a ground nest, no matter how many men at the feed store swear by it, and I will be fair. It does work. The fumes kill the colony. But it also poisons your soil for years. It can seep down toward your groundwater and your well. It is against the law in most places for exactly those reasons, and I have seen with my own eyes what a careless lantern or a dropped match near spilled fuel will do to a man and a barn both. The soapy water does the very same job with none of that risk, so there is simply no reason to take the chance. I would never set a paper nest on fire under my own wooden eave, which is a thing folks actually do, and then wonder how the porch caught. And I would never, ever stand under a nest in the daytime swinging a broom at it, which is how nearly every badly stung man I have ever known got that way. The Flatlander buys the case of aerosol cans and the monthly visit, and poisons his own pollinators along with the pest, and still finds a new nest under the eave next August. The hill man finds the nest before it finds him, drowns it in the dark for $1, and hangs a meat trap at the fence line for the strays, and sits on his own porch in peace come September. Here is the cost, plain: a bottle of dish soap you already own, an empty 2-liter you were going to throw out anyway, a scrap of meat from the kitchen you would have given the dog. $5 covers the whole of it, even if you had to start from nothing. Set that against the exterminator's visit, or against a whole case of spray cans that kill your bees right along with the wasps, and it is not a decision a sensible person has to think very hard about. So this week, in the cool of the evening, walk your property line slow and just watch. Watch for the steady, businesslike coming and going at a single hole in the ground, or at a gap in a stone wall, or up under an eave. That steady traffic is how you find a nest before it finds you, while you can still deal with it on your own terms. Mark it in your mind, or set a stake near it well back. Then come full dark, the gallon of soapy water poured steady and walked away from, and hang a meat-baited bottle or two at the far edges for the ones drifting in from the woods. Do that much, and you will have your own yard back, and your bees will never know a thing happened. Next time, I am going to show you the $2 thing my granddaddy kept in an old coffee can by the back door that meant a mouse never once wintered in this cabin. No poison anywhere, nothing the dog or the cat or the children could ever get into. It is the natural next step after this one. Until then, stay cool, stay watchful, and remember, the folks who settled these mountains with their bare hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.